Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Blowout Growth Network. I'm Gio Aridis, your host. Thanks for joining us today.
Come back. I've been here.
Welcome back, everybody, at the Blowout Growth Network. Thank you for joining us today. Today, I have a really interesting and very, very knowledgeable good friend of mine who, we've had some great guests on the show so far. And I've seen some pretty impressive resumes, but I am going to say that this one is pretty darn impressive. I don't even know where to start, Ryan. Before I can even introduce you, I don't even know where to start on this one. I think, typically I try to go in order, but I think I'm just going to jump around on this one because I think it's more fun that way for the audience. So, let me just throw it out there and just stay with me, everybody, because it's a long list. He is a certified business development and marketing guru, but also an Indiana Golden Gloves boxing champion. I never knew that about you. I knew you did Golden Gloves. I didn't know you were a champ. 2001, he played varsity football for Purdue and the Sun Bowl, and they were runners up. What an awesome experience that must have been. He's an apprentice of investment research by TMP University. He's a full Ironman triathlon finisher, 140.6 miles of swimming, biking, and running. And folks, I actually was there for one of them, and I actually saw him do it. It was unbelievable testament. There's so many things that we're never going to get a chance to touch upon today. Jan already. Again, I'm looking at your list. We're going to have Jan again. So next season, he's an apprentice. Certifications. He's got certifications coming out of his ears in product development and project management. He has certified business development, life mastery consultant by Brave Thinking Institute, which you're going to get some of this today. It's going to be pretty interesting. He also, I left these for last. I should have started with them, but he worked with the Bellagio. He was a key leader. He grew the department 10%, which at that time equaled $200 million in annual revenue just on that 10%. He grew a revenue stream for one of the biggest casino groups on the planet. And then went on to launch U.S. online casinos and sports betting with FanDuel and Boyd. You ended up capturing 50% market share and grew valuation by $1.15 billion. I am super excited and pleased and thankful to introduce you all to my good friend and Chief Abundance Officer and Certified Mindset Mastery Advisor, Ryan Harris. Welcome to the show. I'm out of breath. Take over.
Thank you. Yeah, Yorgo, I'm thrilled to be here. I appreciate you and just appreciate the opportunity. I love what you're doing here on the Blowout Growth Network, and many things even greater still.
Thank you. Thanks for being a part of it. I want to start out because I ask all of our guests, it's important to our audience to know the stories that and the experience that they're about to hear. It's important to see how you can attain so many different things at any stage of your life. So how old are you?
I am 38 years young.
38 years young. And I know you've got a ton of things that you want to talk about here, but I'd like to know what your definition of success is, and maybe tell us what you feel like your biggest successes have been so far. Let's start there.
I love it. So, that was one of the questions I was glad to have prepared, because I think that's not one that you want to wing. Even though my spirit animal, as I might say, is Dean Martin. That's their spirit guide is Dean Martin, where he just would wing it on a show. The Dean Martin variety show, he didn't even show up for rehearsals. He just was there.
And usually with a martini in his hand too.
And a tuxedo. And this is part of the reason why I'm wearing a tuxedo. So, I think what he would even say is, without the tux, I'm just a regular guy, but you put the tux on, and I put my finest hour life on. That's a Winston Churchill quote there. So success, taking a page out of the Rat Pack, I would say there's a quote that I'll make my own, but it's having the power to do what you want, when you want, anytime you want, with whoever you want.
Wow. what a fantastic way to take what I've been doing on a lot of these interviews so far and put it into, I mean, I don't even know, was it an acronym? It was awesome. Do it again.
I just made it up.
That was fantastic. Well, we recorded it. We have it now forever. That was,
all right.
It's and the funny thing is, right, Ryan, that when you have the proper mindset, actually making it success that easy to understand is possible, right?
Yeah. And, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, actually, is one of the things that Da Vinci used to say. And, that's actually up until now, one of the challenges that I've had in my own life is cutting down to what really matters, what's important now and staying present, and that's one of the other ways of ensuring that you stay the course of success.
Talk to us a little bit about that, because on the show, and I know you haven't had a chance to see the other episodes yet, but on the show, really the mindset is fantastic to be able to get yourself there. But for a lot of people, they have trouble connecting that to the pragmatic and actually employing it. So can you tell us from what you just said there, give us some ideas. How do you actually employ stuff like that?
There's another, but one of the things is, look, I'm a diligent student. And if you want to be a good teacher, you have to be a good student. If you want to be a good business person, you have to be a good consumer. And you have to be the kind of, you have to be a vibrational match to that which you are trying to attract. If you want better friends, you have to be a better friend. If you want, better love, it's Valentine's Day today. You have to be a better lover. And if you want better business, you need to be a better customer. And so I'll quote, not so much that I'm so religious, I'll say, but I'm very spiritual. That's where I think I've grown in this is the spirituality of it. And this just happens to be out of the Bible, and it's the parable of the talents. And this has hit me on a whole bunch of different levels.
Talent.
So talent. So and back then they only wrote in man form. So there's he's, and this applies to both men and women, of course. But only he who gains more retains any. He who does not grow loses that even to which he has. So if you're not growing, so I'm glad you asked, because there's a couple different ways to unpack this. Is, look, if you're always connected to the tree of knowledge, you're green, you're connected, you're one of the roots, you're one of the branches. But like fruit that is eaten, what's ripe rots, and what's green keeps growing, and what's green keeps growing. And another way of putting that is, I know Bob Dylan says, he not busy being born is busy dying. But it's a lot like muscle atrophy. So if you stop flexing your muscle of learning, if you stop flexing your curiosity about, living life, are you preparing to die? Or are you seeing a freer, a lot of times, back in the day, like 40 was over the hill, for example. Now people are exponentially realizing that, oh, wow, like I can be younger, healthier, more vibrant, coming more alive because I have this knowledge and I keep going with my knowledge.
On that point, Ryan, there's so much there. I want to hit a couple of them, but the first thing I want to make sure I don't forget. When I'm listening to Ryan talk about this in this kind of detail, it inspires me. And I think this is a great moment for us to realize, Ryan's saying here at the very end about how people are becoming so enlightened that they're literally extending their lifespan. And if we're going to do this, everybody, and you want to live longer with, 3 billion plus people on the planet, there's a couple things that we got to get. And the first one is we all got to get along. We all got to get along. And what Ryan said at the beginning, and I'm just going to draw it to Ryan because you were spot on, but you said it in a different way. But, we're all part of that, the roots. We're all part of the roots. We're all the energy. Studies have been shown that energy, you've seen the studies where you talk to a plant with good stuff, with good words, and it grows, and you talk to a same exact plant right next to it with bad words and it dies. Studies have been done. I mean, this is a clear path, people. You know, another thing that you don't even know, and I'm going to say it to the audience, but look at this, right? Another Golden Gloves. We had another Golden Gloves champ on our show, and he said something that you said, and he said that we are made to move. The point of humans, they say it everywhere, right? It's in the Bible. It's in every like standard core group of books that you have to learn, you know, for personal development, right? It's just, you know, we are here to produce, to interact, to move. If you're not moving, you're dying. Ryan, that was, I mean, keep going, because that was just so chock full. I don't even think I need our questions list. Go.
Nice. Well, and that's you know, what led me to that was because there's more and more books. You know, again, I started cooking with gas when I found audiobooks, for example, Amazon Audible. And
you can speed it up.
Oh yeah. 3.5 times fast is one of the things that I've done. And
yeah.
And
I actually
books, with that
3 a week like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I read the Bible in 10 days.
Wow. Good for you. Holy cow.
And then so there's another book that I had read. It was I believe called The Confidence Gap. And here's the big thing is, and I'm glad I found this because this is such a profound quote that you know, the problem or the challenge with patience and discipline is that it takes both of them to develop either of them. So you know, and with you know, your beginner's mind, you know, if you're basically there's another thing that I've come recently to know even more about how important, you know, you said energy, life force, all that stuff, and you know, whatever it resonates with you, Mr. Audience, Mrs. Audience, energy is everything, and how we do anything is how we do everything. And there's I've realized an appreciation for energetic sufficiency required for a phase change, so required for blowout growth. So you know, you can keep I'll make a little noise here every so often. There's this little child toy, but it's this energy stick, and then if you hold it long enough, then it goes longer. But if you only do that piece of it, and this is another little child toy, everything is your teacher. Everything can be your teacher. Your kids can be your teacher. Everything can be looked to inspiration. But if you don't keep that beginner's mind, if you allow yourself to get bored and get distracted, you don't have that energy sufficiency required for a phase change. It's like turning that heater up all the way for 5 minutes and then turning it down right when your water was about to boil and then evaporate, you know, and turn into steam. And steam can power a locomotive, it can power a bus, or it can power a ship. But if you don't have that energetic sufficiency consistently, then you'll get to right 6 feet from gold, and then you'll just miss it, you know.
What a great comment. I mean, 6 feet from gold. You know, it's you know, these memes that are coming out too are fantastic that I'm seeing all around. You know, you really can't stop. And anybody really who's going to sit and listen to experiential knowledge like what we're given here, they already know this, but you never really stop the hustle. And that should be one of the ways that you level up to be able to achieve the blowout growth is, like you said here, great comment. You said patience and discipline. You got to have them both in order to have either. It's probably the hardest thing, I would say, one of the top things that people probably struggle with, Ryan. I mean, how many people do you see this commonly in the businesses that you consult?
Every
all
time.
the time, right?
Every time.
Every time. You said every time, right? Every time, 100%. Yeah, I mean, it's a pandemic of its own, you know. And on that point, I'll tell you what we've been saying at the Blowout Growth Network is, in order to fill that gap, it's a variation and maybe even going down the path a little deeper of something that you've already said too, Ryan. But you know, work on yourself. Take a minute, you know, schedule the time and put the effort, invest in yourself. because without that, there is not going to be any way to reach that next level.
Yeah. And, you know, somebody once put it to me, my mentor, my original mentor in metaphysics and quantum physics, new science, new thought. That's, you know, over the years, it's gone through many different names, but you will never lose an investment that you make in yourself. And the thing about it is, look, if we could all do this by ourselves, we would have, you know, every New Year's resolution would come true. We would just do it. But without a structure of support, without, you know, and that's where the most successful people hire coaches, you know, celebrities, you know, authors. Like they have a person, they have an advisor, you know, you have your financial advisor, you have, you know, many who I know, Yorgo, you are a person of increase for people because you are always looking to create a win-win and explosive growth, you know, blowout growth in diamonds in the rough, you know, and that's the other thing that I've, you know, come to appreciate is awareness is everything. Awareness is everything. And by you doing what you're, the wonderful sacred works, Yorgo, that you're doing in the world,
yourself.
And I'm not joking, you know,
I know that. And I feel the same about you. I think you're on that same path, which is probably why we connected.
Yeah. So just knowing that, look, you have this level of awareness, and especially in the disciplines that you know you've been privy to, the financial sector. I know film production. I know, like just bringing people together, and I just I love it.
Did the same.
I love it.
And I think that was probably your you know, one of your landmarks or hallmarks along the way was you always were of the mind of connecting people. And it's funny, and I think it's worthy of stopping on this point for a moment, because I will say in the businesses and individuals that I consult, I will say that of the majority of them, probably a high majority of them, have yet to learn that one simple point. And I myself was guilty of it for many years too. I think it starts a little bit with where we came from. Ryan and I are both from Chicago, the Chicagoland area. But I see it everywhere though. It's not just in Chicago, but that's I think why I was indoctrinated with it, because it was so prevalent where we grew up. But that, you know, inability to see anything further than what's right in front of you. You know, yeah. I think that's a key. I think that's a key factor. So, you know what, I want to ask you, that quote that's over your shoulder there. Would you read it for us? And why did you choose to have that up here today? Why is that important?
Because yeah, I'm glad you asked. And this is there's just so many profound things that connects this quote is the epitome of my life and the epitome of why I'm wearing a tuxedo today. And it says, so I'll try to memorize it. So, you know, I won't figure out into that. So to each there comes in their lifetime a special moment when they are figuratively tapped on the shoulder and offered the chance to do a special thing unique to them and fitted to their talents. What a tragedy that would be if that moment finds them unprepared for that which could have been their finest hour. So that is code for me, that when I'm living my finest hour life. You know, some people say it's my best life. That seems a little too cliche for me, but you know, sometimes it does feel good to say, hey, I feel like I'm living my best life right now. But that has a little bit more of a expectancy. When I say I'm living my finest hour life, I am bringing my very best to this moment. And I am, you know, always in the perfect place, always in the perfect time, and always perfectly fulfilling my finest hour life.
That's a pretty profound comment. I think that might be hard for a lot of people to swallow. Can you break it down?
So yeah, absolutely. And back to the simplicity is, look, Winston Churchill was famously not a great student. He's like, you know, back in my high school, my younger days, he was kicked out of school. He was rambunctious. He didn't fit the school mold. And then, after he did all of these, it took a bulldog though, like to take England and the world and
Right.
to, elicit support from everybody against, the Nazis in World War II, and to really help the Allies, all the bombing that was happening in Europe, the Holocaust. It took a bulldog, people like a person, again, a special person fitted for their talent. That time where he's like, look, I just happen to be in the perfect place at the perfect time. And so he's like, I didn't care about what people thought of him. He's like, he was drinking what he was going to drink all day long, being social. And ultimately he makes these jokes that, like, after World War II, he's like, I'm invited now to speak at all these universities. I'm given all these honorary degrees and everything like that. But I'll tell you, when I was in school, like, they didn't come this easy. Like, now they're like, I couldn't get one to save my life. Now they're just giving them to me, but that's where, sometimes school happens outside of the norm. And that's where it's like, look, listening to your intuition. And so that's where, again, you can either feel like life is happening to you as a victim mindset, or that you have to do everything, like it's a push energy, you're forcing it. But when you're in flow, and when you're in the flow, things can get a lot easier. Life is not happening to you, it's not happening by you, it's happening through you. And all of the things that this quote means to me is that Winston Churchill had this thing happen through him, and every little thing, every little setback, every little challenge that, because it wasn't just, oh yeah, I just need to ride out this storm and then we'll win. Like, no, like every moment was like, oh shoot, like we might lose this war, and again, short of
you're saying so many things. I can't let them go by anymore. I got to stop you. I'm sorry, but he said a whole ton of things. We got to make sure that we don't pass up, or you're going to miss it. He's a wealth of knowledge. I've already told him we're going to have him back on the show, so he can talk slower.
just isn't. I'm just going to say the same thing over and over again, because learning is by repetition.
It is, and it's also by being present. And that's one of the things I want to say is a lot of what Ryan is saying here is only made possible by being present in the moment. And if there's a simplistic way of saying it, in my opinion, I think it would be one of the first steps that people can do that really want to try to achieve this state where life is moving through you. It's a very graduated level of living. You're talking about being a conduit. There's tons of ramifications that go along with being able to do that personally, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, religiously. To prepare yourself for something like that, I think first, you need to be present. I think you need to start working on being in this one moment. And if you were in this moment with us, you'll know exactly what it feels like just now, to be that focused in with the other person, be that laser focused on the same page, that you can understand how it lives through you. And I'll give another example, and Ryan, I'm sure you can appreciate this and maybe even connect with it. But movies do that to us. Great movies do that to us. Great characters do that to us. So it's not like we've never felt it before, right? We've just never felt it for ourselves before. We've always done it vicariously through these characters on the screen. So in order to bridge that gap, I want to ask you a question. I want you to name two of your favorite superheroes, any ones you want. They could be, Marvel characters, they could be video game characters, they could be characters in your own life, whatever. Who are two of your favorite superheroes? And then I want you to tell me who would win in a fight between them, and how would their superpowers help them to win?
All right.
Mon frere.
So I'll have to go with my two third place honorable mention. Let me just say Thor Ragnarok. Was when he felt the lightning coming through him. When you are living into your purpose, that's when you're not thinking with your brain. You're thinking. You're charged with your heart, and your heart powers your brain with electricity and intuition. But to stay on point with these questions, I'll say Captain America and Captain Planet.
Ooh.
So
Okay.
yeah.
So in a fight, who would win?
So I think the audience.
Great answer. Great answer. I love it. Oh man, great answer. And then of course the reason being because they're both so awesome. How amazing. What a great answer, bro. You know, I can appreciate that, and you know, people that want to step out of themselves for a moment and live that vicarious life, at least to get a taste of it. There's nothing wrong with that, but taking action is key. Taking action and being present and being focused on, you know, giving yourself the ability to be able to, like you said at the very beginning, have a plan and then execute that plan so that you're showing up every day at 150%. And it's a lot easier said than done. So, you know, we jumped right into mindset, and I want to jump out of that for a moment, and I want you to tell us a little bit about your past, about some, you know, key elements in your history that were maybe aha moments where you really, you know, started. Where were your main growth points? You know, what age were you? What happened? How did you get where you are now? You know, your resume is super impressive. And that's a testament to the skill set that you built. But I want to know, how did you build that skill set? Tell us a little bit. Give us a little insight. Yeah.
I'll say at the forefront, decision. Decision is the most powerful thing. That it's magical. So deciding and deciding for what you would love and saying no to everything else. And so I alluded to my mentor early on in my life. You know, besides, you know, the parents, the family, the friends, all those wonderful people, those are obviously some very influential mentors. But for me, the incredible one speaks to me at right when I needed it. You know, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And this is something that I didn't even know. There's some very cathartic examples of how this works, and it works every time. But what I'll say is, the growing up. So there's a mental block, you can call it, that is inherent in athletes sometimes, where spontaneously it's called the yips, or in gymnastics, some of us might remember Simone Biles in gymnastics bowing out of certain Olympic competitions in Japan a couple of years ago because of what was known as the twisties, where you completely lose orientation about what you do. And you know, for gymnasts, they can do that in mid flip and paralyze themselves, for example. So she's like, I can't trust my body right now, and I also don't want to let the team down. Somebody else, I know I've been really great at this, but somebody else needs to take this place, because I could freeze right when the gold medal is on the line, you know, for the team gold and for the US gold. For me, I learned a very wise lesson that trying harder isn't always the thing. And trying harder is actually sometimes part of the trap, and it's actually a large part of the problem, and the problem a lot of times. So growing up, I had some success as a runner, as a left-handed pitcher, and as a football player. And right in my freshman year of high school, sophomore year as well, I developed what's known as the yips, and I completely lost control. I forgot how to throw a baseball. For all of a sudden, and you know, those Cub fans out there might know John Lester throwing to first base when it goes into left field, or Chuck Knobloch was the one that I knew early on, and he was throwing it from second base, not to the first baseman, but into the crowd. He was throwing it like 13 rows up, like it wasn't even close. And he was an all-star. He was paid millions and millions of dollars. And so this can happen to anybody. And then when I figured it out, like I had this whole nother level of awareness when I worked with a sports psychologist, is how he named it, but he was effectively a mindset mastery advisor, very much like I am. And so he led me through some guided visualizations, meditations, where I not only overcame my ability to, focus and to be present and to set myself up for success. He led me into meditations that allowed me to, on a snap of my finger, trigger my adrenaline just by my thoughts. So that thing about that story about the mom who lifts the car up for their baby, like that's under the car. I was able to trigger that on multiple occasions. That was my pregame warm up, was setting my adrenaline like that.
Wow.
And yeah, and so I'm like, okay, there's something there, and it was nice to be able to do this on the field, to see the results translate on the field. But the real gift is not the getting of your dream or the vision; it's who you become in the process.
Right.
And I was like, wow, there's something here bigger. And since then, there's always been a part of me, and that's translated into some of the other things that I've done. Pete helped me walk onto the Purdue football team. When football ended for me, that's when I got into boxing. And then for boxing, just as much as I actually fell in love with the cardio that translated into my triathlons. As much as I love the cardio, I hated being punched in the face. so I was like, oh yeah. It's like, there's something here. I was like, but let's figure this out. So yeah.
Man, so I mean, I just heard you say something that I would consider to be a superpower. You said that you could turn your adrenaline on by performing some kind of variation of techniques, which I'd love to know for myself. So I'm going to ask you, what do you think are your other superpowers? What are some of them?
I have two immediate ones that come to mind is bringing good people together. That is not only my passion for that. Identifying people's doppelganger.
Really? That's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
So that's the I was like, okay, so but and it's not a guaranteed thing, but like I have to connect with the person. But when I do, like, wow, that was profound, and came out of left field. Like, that's totally you. And so that's one of them. And then translating results or thoughts into results.
That's
so from thoughts into results.
So on that point, and I want to jump back because you mentioned your first superpower being bringing good people together. Just bouncing back to my story about where we grew up, I didn't finish, but the open sharing of information and the fact that when you see that there's a fit between somebody that and somebody else that it really should be natural to share the knowledge, but not all people are really programmed that way. And I think that these kinds of realizations, these moments where you can employ this litany so far of knowledge that Ryan has been bestowing upon us. I mean, almost every sentence that's coming out of his mouth has got something in it to be gleaned from. So if you're really paying attention to what he's saying here, if you haven't, I would rewind and go watch parts of this again, because there's just a lot there. But I think that has 100% been in my opinion, your initial key to success is the fact that you've always been really keen to identify it first, but very open to join it. And a lot of the clients that I consult, they have this hurdle to get over. And it's often this hurdle of what a lot would consider to be like industry privacy. And I get it. There's a lot of businesses where that applies, and there's a lot of businesses where it's very dog eat dog. But if you can put yourself into a position somehow in some asset or facet of your life where you can not have that present, and you can actually get into something like where there's a free sharing of information, I think those are the beginning steps then to be able to get life to go through you. Would you say, Ryan?
Yeah. And again, there's a large part of me that right now it's being led to share this right now. This seems to be the forum. I'm preparing for a very big talk that I'm giving this weekend, and the original title of it was actually "The Future is Feminine."
Oh,
And
cool.
so the interesting thing is, it no longer resembles that whatsoever, but it's got origins, the premise behind it, because a lot of us men are intimidated by that, or it's almost like a resistant thing. But when you think about it, men have been so driven by competition, for example. Where we used to be the hunters and the gatherers, like we would be out like trying to hunt for, but
It's
just
in our
because,
DNA. Yeah.
yeah, it's in our DNA. Whereas the women would be gathering, they'd be looking after the children in the cave, and then talking more, collaborating, knowledge share. And for me, one of the biggest challenges for me up until now has been deprogramming my competitive mind and transcending that competitive mind into the creative mind. So a mind of creation. What one of the things that I found a cartoon that two cartoon drawings that I'm using in the presentation. One is because a competition is just a race to the bottom. You're whatever your business is built on, if it's built on competition or taking from somebody else, it will be
Totally.
taken in the same way.
Totally.
And then there's a whole bunch of discounts and prices. There's a great cartoon there, but then the other one that I saw was there's a cartoon of somebody who's holding up a sign, will work for food, and then there's a guy right next to him that said, "We'll work for less food." Like,
Right.
so
Yeah.
it's called capitalism, people. It's
Yeah.
like,
That's
no, it's like,
exactly
it
it.
doesn't have to be that way. And there's actually in the programs that I teach, there's a book that I unpack for my clients. There's 11 spiritual laws, and one of them is actually the law of compensation, that only your own can come to you. So you can't take, or you don't have to take from anybody else. Only what you put into it is what you receive out of it.
I mean, that's the golden rule, kind of in another form. Recharging is really what I think we should be focusing on. And there's so many different ways to replenish your energy and your bank of energy. We talk about this on the Blowout Growth. There's been several guests so far who have mentioned, the flow of energy. Ryan mentioned it again a little bit earlier about life going through you. That's the same kind of a concept, to be able to become and connect with the other energies that were around. And being able to laser focus that on business or on your career or on your personal self-development is always key, and it's always very important. So, but what scares you about where we are right now? And then what excites you?
All right, it's good question. So as far as what scares me, the power of people's fear. There's a wonderful book. It's called the Science of Being Well, and it's actually written by the person who was the inspiration behind The Secret. And this book's 112 years old, and actually from a guy who was born and raised in Chicago, McHenry County. So
Interesting.
He says, look, you need to sever your relationship with disease and illness and enter only into your relationship with health.
Yeah.
So if you keep thinking, what you focus on expands. And so if you keep thinking this, fortunately for me, anybody who might have been talking pandemic for me was probably going over my head, because I've been learning Spanish during the pandemic. So either that, or I've effectively cut out most television, most commercials, and so I haven't received that constant, consistent, persistent repetition of bad stuff is happening.
This is really cool. This is really cool that you're saying this, because of one of the questions that I have not, that's on the list that I have not yet gotten to ask anybody, and you seem like the right person to ask. And I think you answered part of it already. But how important is the impact of media on the mindset. I mean, what are people really not getting that they need to be getting here? Give us a little bit more. You touched upon it just now a little bit, but can you give us a little more, just a little more pragmatic, so that certain people that may want to listen to this, who want to make a change, can do so at the end of this video, let's say?
Yeah. Well, in fact, again, the one of my mentor, Mary Morrissey, says inspiration without action is just merely entertainment. So if you're not taking an action step out of this, is like, so what? Now what? What are you going to do with all this? You know, and so for me, what I would recommend is, there's also a law of non-resistance.
What is that?
That's one of the other. That is one of the other laws, sister laws to the law of compensation, where what you resist persists.
There's a lot of great information out there right now, and there's a lot of crap out there too, stuff that's not great. And part of our mission here is to try to help that younger generation, that next generation of hustlers and entrepreneurs that want to level up their game. We always try to leave them, with some pragmatics, some things that they can actually do. You mentioned action points, things that you need to take action on. Decision, you said decision in there as well, being the most powerful power. I 100% fully agree with you, that really without action, all you have is an idea. You don't have anything other than that, and there's a zillion ideas. And so, I think I'd like to close with one more question to you here. But talk about how important it is that if you don't fail, you're not even trying. You mentioned it earlier. You said 6 feet away from gold. But, it's a hard thing for a hustler, especially somebody that doesn't have a lot of resource. They don't come from a family with, doctors and attorneys or senators or whatever, where, you always have somebody to call. So you're trying to figure it all out. How do you do it? Give us something to go on, Ryan.
Yeah. Well, I'll say that your calendar is your most transformational tool that you have out there, that any of us have out there. You, audience member, Blowout Growth subscriber, member, you might not realize this, but you have the exact same amount of time as every single of the world's most unsuccessful people, and the same amount of time as the world's most successful people. And there is no such thing as time management. We all get the same amount of time. It's activity management. What are you doing to manage your activities? Are you, watching 7 hours every single night of binge watching Netflix shows, or, watching the news? It's like, okay, nothing's changed since the last time you saw the news. So that's what I would say is, what's coming through me to share.
Replace. And it's funny too that you say this at this time, because we're coming into Lent, and one of the key elements in Lent that anybody that even has any idea, it's really about filling and changing, and filling your batteries and changing some of your habits. That's really what it's about. So it's a perfect time of year. It's the ripest time of year. You mentioned earlier, ripe fruits end up decaying. So you got to, know when you're at your prime, know when you're ready, and go and do it. Like, don't let it get old. Don't let it mold, let it go. As soon as you're feeling like you take that action. It's funny, Ryan, because I remember there was a point in my life, I had an aha moment, and it wasn't a good one. And it was the third time that I had in hand a ticket to Europe. I had never gone, and it was on my list. I tried 3 different times with tickets in hand, and each time something massive happened. The last time, one of the businesses and buildings we were operating in completely burned down. And that was the third time, and I said, maybe I'm just not meant to go. But that was my approach to it, and that stopped me from doing things. And then I met a man who told me, he said, he goes, "Why are you waiting? There's never going to be a good time I had every excuse in the world. Oh, I went 3 times and my restaurant burned down, my business burned down. I had to, he goes, so like what you said, what did you say? So what? Now what? And had I really, really learned it back then, I could have saved myself a whole hell of a lot of time wasted from being able to reach my goals, because really that's what it was all about. The other thing I want to talk to you about too, that you mentioned in here, is the mind shift between time management and activity management. And I think that that's a very profound comment to make in a mindset shift to make for our audience, is that difference between how much am I doing? It doesn't matter how much time. Because if your tasks that you need to get done are, they don't take a long time, then it really is about doing your tasks. And even if they are about taking a long time, it's even still about doing that task. It doesn't matter how much time. I love that. And I think that that's a great way to end this. Thank you so much, Ryan, for taking your time to join us here today. You and I could probably go on for another couple of hours. So maybe we'll have you on the show again. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing this abundance of knowledge. We're going to have Ryan's contact information up there. If you want to contact the Chief Abundance Officer, you got his info. It's going to be flashed up on the screen. Reach out and connect. That's what we're here for. This is the Blowout Growth Network. Thank you for joining us. Please like, share, tell somebody that you think might be interested. Hook up with Ryan. Thank you very much, Ryan. I appreciate it. Ryan, bring us out.
Thank you, Yorgo. Thank you, the Blowout Growth Network. And thank you to you beautiful, luminous light being. You have unlimited potential, and you are far more powerful than any situation, circumstance, or condition that you can ever face. And now is your time to go boldly into the direction of what you would love. So thank you. It's been an honor, and I will see you soon.
I wish I could license the Next Generation thing. Thanks, Ryan. Everybody, thank you.